Okay.
So, welcome, Joel and Kuiken, Cole Williams. Please share about yourselves and some wisdom.
All right, so my name is Cole Williams, and I'm one of the co-founders of the Delta Project, and that project seeks to support families and youth that are returning home from incarceration. So I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, and I'm Joel Van Kuiken. I'm a former Denison student, DePaul grad. That's how I'm part of the cohort of 361. Cole and I got to know each other about 5 years ago, serving together on a nonprofit board. Cole came to me with a question a couple of years ago that led to the creation of the Delta Project. Cole, you want to weigh in on that question?
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, so the question that I asked was a question that was posed to me by a young man who was about 17 years old and sitting inside the juvenile detention center, faced with the possibility of returning either back to the community or back to jail, right? And so the question that he asked me as I was talking to him about all of the amazing men that I'd come in contact with who were Black and brown in our community, who were doing amazing work in the community, I was sharing with him how to connect with them, and he really just pulled my card and was just honest. He said, well, it's great that you know those men, but I don't know those men when I leave and enter back into my community. And so the question he posed was really, how do I become something I don't see? And I thought that was such a brilliant question, because it really is a universal question that we all should be asking ourselves. But it took a young man inside a juvenile detention center to pose that question, and I needed answers to that question. So me and Joel have been working to find a way to answer that question.
That's great. I'm sure you're going to touch on it again. As you reflect on 2020, we usually ask what's a good or bad decision you made, but how do you reflect on 2020?
Man, Joel, you want to tackle that first?
Yeah, I can go first. 2020 to me, there was so much hidden opportunity in 2020. And I think on the surface, it's easy to think, oh, what a terrible year. But as we know, chaos means opportunity. And I found 2020 to be a brilliant year in many ways. But what was meaningful for us, we incorporated in 2019, in September of 2019, we got our 501c3 in March. A week later, quarantine began. So for us, pivot is kind of an overused term, but we had to change our focus and understand how to best operate to serve our kids and help our kids understand what they can become and support them when they came home on probation. There's a number of different things we worked on to do that, but I think that, it's hidden opportunity is kind of how I would look back on 2020.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just like to just simply echo the same sentiment. I think 2020 for me has definitely been that. I think one of the things that we've done really, really well is found a way to tell the narratives of young men of color, as well as align them with men in their communities. So I think for me, it's definitely been an opportunity for us to bridge some of that gap in terms of answering that question. But really, it really has allowed us to kind of disrupt some of those stereotypes that come alongside working with youth who are incarcerated.
Great. Thank you. And as you then, you found your pivots, and how do you look at 2021?
I think for me, 2021 is just even a bigger opportunity for us. I know for us, one of the big things that we're really working to build is continuing to collaborate with community organizations in our community so that we're sharing, as we know that many of the families that we work with are all working within that same ecosystem of organizations. So we're continuing to build those relationships, but also really look into 2021 to be able to fund the work that we're doing, specifically because the work we're doing is tied to not just something tangible, but we're tying our work to relationships. And so we're really looking to find ways to support these youth in such a major way, especially when we're talking about mentors and sustaining relationships that give these kids opportunities to see what they can't see.
Yeah, I would say for me, 2020 is the end of a decade.
Yeah.
The end of the 2010s. 2021 is the true beginning of the 2020s. So it's really a new era. And I think that's how we have to be looking at it. When I think about, kind of venture capital and funding things, there's an interesting paradox in comparison that one of our board members pointed out to me. Often in a startup culture, in the tech culture, failure is praised and appreciated and rewarded. And often it's that failure that will get more people to invest in you. But when we start to look at our kids, they're coming from these traumatic experiences growing up. They may fail a couple times and they run out of opportunity. We should be investing in these kids because they're brilliant. They're smart. They get it. They're the future leaders of our culture. Yet many of them end up as incarcerated fathers.
Yeah.
So where are we investing? Where is the most return on our money? It's in this younger generation that we need to help pull up and join us and make our community a better place.
Well, we ask about what are your philanthropic goals? You're sort of living it, right? The dream. So, I just want to at least put a footnote that you should meet Eric Lindbergh, who's another Denison alum, who is a big believer in connecting people who are, whether it's short-term, long-term sentences, to give them access to college credits that then lead to a college degree, because they've seen the recidivism rates just because they found that roadmap. So that's everybody across the aisle, wherever you were coming from, you can't be against that, and just think of the dollars per inmate that we spend, aside from the value of human life. So maybe you sort of talked about your plans. Maybe you talk about your ask. Because that's what we do, by the way, interconnecting. I think we're created a foundation. You're going to hear about it tomorrow or whatever through the year. But one of the things, you don't even have to spend money. It's just about just connecting.
Yes.
But back to your ask. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Well, one thing, we are very excited to be featured in the Atlantic magazine now. We have a partnership with the Atlantic. Nice. We have a full page ad. That you can see here. How do I become something I don't see? It's our story. We're going to be extending that partnership throughout 2021. Cole will be writing an opinion piece. The ad will be featured in more issues. My ask of the community is to visit us, visit our website, watch our videos, join our mailing list, and engage with us. And think about how the Delta Project, the idea of the Delta Project applies in your community and how we might be able to help you understand that and bring that forward. We need systems change right now. We need to change the narrative. We need to change how people understand young men of color and understand the potential that they have. So my ask is help us. Help us do this work. We're not a big foundation. We're a fledgling, 1-year-old nonprofit.
You're an emerging.
You're emerging.
You're just like in finance. You're emerging managers. So
yes.
That's how we look at you.
Support. We need.
Sometimes you're the most innovative at this stage.
Yeah.
I agree. We are trying to teach kids editing with Adobe Premiere. We've been trying to get funded. We've tried a couple times to get the funding to bring laptops into the detention center to teach our kids how to edit in Adobe Premiere and the Adobe Creative Cloud so that when they leave, they can get meaningful work editing Zoom video content. We've been able to create relationships here in Grand Rapids with another organization that provides freelance and gig work to communities. We need support to do that. That's my ask.
And Joel's ask is mine as well. Again, we are in the trenches. We are I'm in the classroom quite often. We're seeing the narratives, we're seeing the stories, and I think that that's the other part of this, is that sometimes these kiddos, unfortunately, who have made some poor choices, who had violated the law, sometimes in that violation are seen as predators, right? And so one of the things that we want to do is really shift that narrative by helping so many people truly understand that there's so much more behind that title. There's so much more behind what we see as it relates to their crimes, but most importantly, these are our children, and whether they are Black or brown, they are children in our community, and they will be returning home to our communities. And I think that it is important that people who live in those communities recognize the value that these children have as well. And when they're given the opportunity to do the very best that they can, they will show up. But first, we have to change the way that they are seen when they return home. And so part for us is that ask is that when our kids return home, that they are supported when they return home, just like we support any citizen who's returning home, or the lack thereof of citizens returning home. But we want our children to have a second chance at that. And I think they deserve that. So, yeah.
I'll look forward to learning more. So what's the one word for 21, given all that?
My one word is disruption. I'm hoping to disrupt the way we see and do things with kids of color.
Mine is think. Think it through. It's not one word. I mean,
yeah.
Sure.
Avoiding these heuristics, these biases in our brains that make us behave a certain way. Change yourself. Go back to get further upstream. Maybe it's upstream.
And probably what's really important, and I have to learn more about what you're doing, is to celebrate the successes and show them. There's one a fellow Michigan alum. He supports another Wolverine. They created, cancer survivors mentoring other cancer patients. If you can sort of,
Beautiful.
Create that success chain. I mean, some of the best mentors are people that've been there. Mm-hmm. But I love to shine lights on things that disrupt in good ways and help us be thoughtful. We'll have to come back to the upstream thing. I got to figure out that wording, but thank you. I'm going to stop recording.